I can validate everything, but what I couldn't validate was this account that the 64 million was going to. Has it been compromised? Do we know who owns it? Who's on the account signature record? Is our customer being given the correct information?
Yeah.
Right? They think they've got the correct information.
Sure.
Are they being given the correct information or not? So why don't I just go validate it with Chase Bank?
Yeah.
Well, they won't talk to me. There's no connection to, so you end up just going, well, I've done everything I can. And I hope that the customer understands that this is their responsibility per the account agreement.
Hey there, it's Mike Langford. Welcome to another episode of the 6x6 Lock Podcast, a secure money movement podcast for the private markets. On this episode of the show, Todd Searle and I are joined by Jeff Wilkinson, founder, CEO, and chairman of Keystone Bank, which was recently acquired by Third Coast Bank. This conversation is absolutely amazing. First of all, when was the last time you got to hear from someone who actually started a bank? But wait, this is Jeff's second go-around as a bank founder. He launched Pioneer Bank back in 2007, and that bank was acquired as well. So it's safe to say Jeff knows a thing or two about banking and money movement and, M&A activity as well. You're absolutely going to love this episode, trust me. Now, before we get into it with Jeff, please do make sure you take a moment to subscribe to the 6x6 Lock Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, the YouTubes, or wherever you like to get your podcast jam on. And if you have a question or a suggestion for a topic or a guest for the show, hit us up, podcast@6lock.com. Okay, let's get to the conversation with Jeff Wilkinson. Well, all right, here we go. Todd Searle, Jeff Wilkinson. So wonderful to see you. Welcome to the 6x6 Podcast.
It's great to be here.
Yeah, this is great.
And
thanks for coming.
It's the 6x6 Lock Podcast. Sorry, I misspoke there. This is great.
That's
awesome
okay.
stuff, man. Thanks for coming out.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah.
So before you got here, Todd, Jeff was telling us that he had an incredibly long commute. Apparently, if we angle our heads just right, we actually can see a condo. So behind him, we did this on purpose. We set it up so that he could see his place from the episode of the show.
I love it. I love it. I like your place up there.
Yeah, that's great.
Is that happy hour next? Is that what we're meeting?
I was thinking.
I think I can see the pool.
There you go.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, anyways, we're so excited to have you on the show because you might be the first person I've ever met who's started a bank, and I'm going to dive into that in a little bit. But recently, you sold your bank. Your bank was acquired.
Right.
Keystone Bank was acquired. So why don't we kick it off there? I mean, so walk us through the decision to sell the bank and what the future holds there.
Well, sure. Happy to do that. And I'm excited to be here. So thanks for having me. I'm really impressed with what you're doing with 6 Lock, and I see a lot of carryover into the world that I have lived in virtually my entire career, the banking world. But
for sure, yeah, the pain is real.
Yeah, the pain is real. Payment pain is real. Fraud is real. And no one's got a solution yet, but you're as close as anyone.
We're getting there. Yeah, that's right.
So excited to see you guys evolve and where it can go for you. But yeah, so started Keystone Bank in Austin, Texas in 2018. And it's my second one that I had done. Prior to that, I did another bank called Pioneer Bank that I started in 2007, and that grew it to $1.2 billion, and then kind of did a merger and exited after about 6 months. So, yeah, so I've been around the community banking space, so I get it. I understand all of the whole world about it. I've seen it from consulting side, helping people start banks and go through all the regulatory paperwork that it requires, and then decided to embark on doing it myself instead of watching all these other bankers do it themselves. So. Yeah, so started Keystone Bank in October 2018. It's important to find a market when you're starting a bank that isn't overbanked.
Right.
Yeah. Most people would say Austin's overbanked, but it's really not over community banked. It's very under community banked. So we don't, for our size city, we have a very underrepresented number of local community banks that are headquartered in the area. Long story why, but suffice it to say, we had 4 or 5 banks here, and we should have 2 to 3 times that for the city of our size. And so, so the market was there, and it's what I know. And so I put together some of my former investors and some new investors, and we decided to launch into this great city of Austin, Texas with a tech-forward community bank. So keeping the fundamentals of local decision making, quick access to the decision makers, decisions made locally, not in some other city, but with a tech forward attitude, because if you're going to be in Austin, you probably need to have good technology. So we partnered with one of the leading providers of technology to banks in the country, Jack Henry. They built us out an incredible, modern, current suite of products, all the way from the back systems that we use to the systems that customers see, digital mobile technologies for businesses and individuals, and just met the market where the market needed to be met.
Yeah.
And we raised about, we raised an initial round of $31.5 million from around 100 investors, mostly local, and ended up raising 3 more rounds of capital as we grew, and we grew it to $1 billion in 7 years. We were for banks under $3 billion in the country. The majority of the number of banks in the country are under $3 billion in size, but obviously the largest banks control the majority of the deposits.
Sure.
But in terms of number of individual chartered banks, the majority of them are under $3 billion in size. So from 2018 to this year, Keystone Bank was the 3rd fastest growing bank in the U.S. under $3 billion in size, and the number 1 fastest growing bank in Texas during that same period of time.
Congratulations, by the way.
It was cool run. We had a great group of people we put together at the board level, at the shareholder group, and the right people involved in the management team, and we just met the market where the market really needed somebody like what we brought to the market, and we just were aggressive in going out and asking for business and getting business. So.
What's a big differentiator when you say community bank? What would differentiate a community bank? Just maybe a few attributes there from a B of A and your JPs and these large, obviously coast to coast. Honestly, I steer from some of the larger banks, because there's just not a relationship component. But community,
not to be flippant, but I call it the one throat to choke theory. So when you're dealing with the larger organizations, there is no one's throat you can choke. And the buck doesn't stop with any one individual, and you can't get to the person that it does stop with.
So accountability.
So there's no accountability, there's no flexibility, there's no creativity. This is what we do, this is how we do it. If you don't like it, sorry.
Yeah.
Community banks are a little more customized. They have a lot more opportunity to customize. We definitely, every one of our customers knows how to get a hold of me, give out cell phones, email numbers.
Yep.
All of our decisions are made here. We don't have to worry about somebody else in another city telling us what we need to do or changing what we've decided to do. So it's all sort of contained locally. And if you layer into that expertise, which is really, really important to get really high quality individuals, if you can build a very healthy company by getting really high quality people that could work anywhere, but they like that wrapper of that smaller localized service where they can get decisions made quickly on behalf of customers. And be creative when you need to be within the confines of credit risk.
Yeah.
You can't just give the farm away, but you can be flexible and creative with somebody and build a history with them so that you don't have to start over every new project. And they go, oh, well, who are you?
That's real important. That is a really key point.
Right. They already have.
Because it's a brand new day. Even if you've been with B of A for years, you walk in there for a new loan for whatever it may be. It's a brand new day. They look like you've never been there before.
They do, and with a community bank, you can pick up the phone and call me or one of the people that you're used to. Hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think about that? Yeah, I can get that done for you. Or here's how I think I can get that done for you. Or here's what we would do.
Right.
Boom. Entrepreneurs love that.
That's right.
They're willing to pay a little bit more for it.
But I have your cell phone.
They stay around longer, and they know whose throat to choke, to be honest with you. But it's a very valuable service. It's the slice of the financial services space I love the most. It can do the most for a broad segment of customers.
Yeah.
That's not to say we can do everything, but if you're a successful entrepreneur and you want to have access to credit at a bank level, then community bank's the way to go.
Yeah.
Over the long run, in my opinion, community banks, you may have a segment of your business, business may get so big that you need some of those larger banks' sophistication and that they can provide. But most community bank customers don't get there.
Yeah.
So they don't really need that. Mm-hmm. And I think the whole idea of convenience was sold very heavily in the marketing budgets of these big banks for a long period of time.
Yeah.
And those that know they have a choice and try it out, every time they try it out, they go, I wish I'd have got here sooner. I wish I'd have got to the community bank sooner. I can't believe how quick and easy this is.
Yeah.
So, and we got good technology. So started Keystone Bank, about 90 plus employees, 7 years in. Lots going on in my industry. We raised money from 350 people. $1 billion is a pretty attractive size.
Yeah.
You're starting to get some scale, but you've got technology contracts that are maturing. You're looking at the future. I mean, what's the most sensible off ramp to get your shareholders their return and their liquidity?
Yeah.
For us, we felt like now is the time before things got wonky, which we started a year ago.
Yeah.
In the late 2024 is when we actually started.
Okay.
And we announced a deal in October of 2025.
Right.
It takes a while to find a good partner.
It does.
But we felt like once there was a administration change that we were going to see a little bit of improvement in the ability to get deals done.
Sure. Well, Leah Khan's gone.
What's that?
Leah Khan is gone.
Yes. Yeah.
Head of the FTC, and she was like Dr. No there, and no deals really happened last administration.
Under Biden, there was a mandate to not allow deals to happen. So we knew that would change it typically does change with a Republican-controlled White House. So for us, it was like, what's an elegant way for us to sort of continue on with our customers and any investors that want to continue on? And we found Third Coast Bank, which is a public bank.
How'd y'all meet? How did that come about? What was the...
So, I'd known the CEO, over the years. He had seen what I'd done twice, and I'd watched what he did. He started his bank in 2008.
They're a community bank too?
They are.
Yeah.
So I started my last one in 2007. He started Third Coast in 2008. He grew it to $6 billion over 17 years and took it public. And so he really hit the ball out of the park. So I built $2 billion banks, and he built one $6 billion bank. So we met him through our contacts in the industry, and our investment banker who helped us with this process knew them.
Yeah.
Knew they were very interested in expanding in Austin, and had been looking but hadn't been able to find much because there's not a lot to buy here. So that's kind of how this marriage kind of came together. And we actually went down the path with them once, and then when the tariffs were announced, the public bank stocks bottomed out.
Yeah.
So we went down the path with another acquirer first that kind of fell apart in July, which was fine. And then by that time, stock prices had rebounded and they were back in the game.
Yeah.
So we reached back out when the other deal fell apart, and they were like, yeah, we're excited. So got that deal across the finish line on October 22nd. So for me, it was they're a good partner. They do a lot of things we don't do. They love what we built. They want to be in Austin. They're nice people. They've been really great to us.
Okay.
They're all about the talent. They loved our talent, which we thought we had good talent. It was validated in the process. And so our shareholders are getting publicly traded stock or cash. It was their choice.
Yep.
And those that want to stay along for the ride with Third Coast are staying in, and those that wanted cash took cash.
Yeah.
It closed January 31st. And we're going forward. I'm Austin Market Chairman for Third Coast, and I'm on their public company board. And,
That's exciting.
I'm excited about it, actually.
It was a sigh of relief.
It was nice.
Yeah, it was good.
Anytime you get to shed the responsibility of CEO for a little while.
And that's a process, like M&A, like that. There is a process there, and it's
kind of
nice. It can be intense.
For a little while. It's a lot of responsibility that.
Absolutely.
And it's kind of nice, and they've been good to me, and they're nice people, and I like them, and they run a really great bank, and they earn well. It's kind of like like mini cottage industries, right? I mean, it's a thing. We go through periods of M&A in our industry, and we always have, and we go through.
It's like consolidation. You feel like there's like a period of fragmentation,
and
people are spin back out,
and then everybody gets disenfranchised. The customers get enfranchised. Your prior investors get enfranchised. The bankers, and then all of a sudden you start seeing people starting banks again.
Sure.
So we're in that phase now where we're starting to see a little more new bank activity.
Right.
Get going.
Would you say the new bank activity? Talk about that a little bit. Are those new charters that are actually being issued or released for new banks, or are these banks? Are these charters being purchased?
It's a combination.
In rural, then branches spread out.
It's a combination.
Okay.
So there's one that just is getting going out of the Houston area that just announced that they're acquiring their first platform acquisition. And I think it just got announced today.
Okay.
And this is an individual that did it before in Texas, created a $3.5 billion publicly traded bank and sold that bank to Simmons Bank out of Arkansas. And it's 5 years ago, so it's just beyond his non-compete. He's going to do it again.
Okay.
There's others that go the route of just doing a true de novo startup where you're just starting fresh with capital and a team, and you go get an FDIC insurance and a charter. And there are still some of those that are happening. We're starting to see some fintech-oriented chartering activities too.
Sure.
So Erebor Bank is one of them, which is going to be
Lonsdale's deal.
Lonsdale's involved in that.
Right.
Peter Thiel, I think, is involved in that.
Lucky,
but that's going to be
Palmer,
more of a. That's going to be
Palmer
more
Lucky.
of a support the fintech ecosystem, crypto ecosystem, and kind of the void left when Silicon Valley went out, from what I understand.
Yeah.
So a lot more. I think they raised $300 million of capital.
Right. Yeah.
They started Keystone with $31.5 million.
Yeah.
Like they're going to be different than what
For sure.
what I did.
Yeah.
Right. And there's room for everybody, but there's
I think so. They're going to go. They're different clients. They're probably
a
going
lot of fintechs are rushing out to get bank charters because right now is a very good period of time.
It's favorable.
It's very favorable. So we're starting to see more and more people. I think I saw one today. Upstart's going to go. Every day there's a new fintech that's been around that's been trying to figure out a way to get a bank charter, and they're all rushing because they feel like this window's going to close, especially if we don't get a continuation of the current party in the White House at the next election.
Yeah.
So, but I did them, and I enjoy it because I love seeing people be successful, and I think a community bank can be very empowering to somebody, so that you don't have to worry about your banking stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you got somebody watching your banking stuff for you and your credit needs behind you, you can go focus on building your business.
Yeah.
Too often the larger banks are just a hassle because they're so large and they're not maneuverable and they're not very customized approach.
Yeah.
So, but relationships key. We get to practice it. We get to do it.
You
just talk about it.
Yeah. Well, you live it too from the
live
standpoint of a community bank. It's just in the name itself is embedded in the culture of where they're established. And you've talked about a little bit about before, but I'd love to hear about when you put a board together, there are different people from different backgrounds in that community that represent certain aspects of it. And
That's right.
And you want that encompassing those different angles and thoughts as they come together to really make up who the bank is and where they're going. Right?
We had entrepreneurs on our board that had done lots of different things. Not banking. We had an entrepreneur that had previously served on a bank board. We had a banker that was the CEO of another bank that we had on our board. We had a private equity individual that invested in banks.
Okay. Yeah.
And then after we opened, we added the former treasurer of Dell, the original treasurer of Dell, Alex Smith.
Yep.
We didn't have anybody with his background. We didn't have anybody with his expertise.
Yeah.
And then we added somebody that had created and founded a startup in the real estate business called Concierge Auctions. That they sold to Sotheby's for a big amount of money. But so we didn't really have anybody with that residential real estate sort of understanding on it. So you kind of try to match expertise. You try to match some people that do have banking experience, having served on a bank board before, with other entrepreneurs. And then we had another entrepreneur that started a book publishing company and sold it for a big amount of money. And building a board is really probably one of the most important things in the success of a community bank startup. It's very, very important.
Yeah.
It's interesting when we
It's a
had
lot of work.
I can imagine.
But along those lines, during our prep call, we just ended up just going crazy in a conversation about the concept of talent and how important it is to bring the right people into the organization. Obviously, at the board level, that's incredibly important. But you talked about how important it is for the bank itself, like the people who are actually working in the day-to-day. And, you talked about just a concept of hiring for fit, not for need, right? When you meet a good person that you think you want to work with, hire them and figure it out. And
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I practiced that and I learned that over time. That wasn't necessarily my default approach as an entrepreneur, especially the founder of my first bank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of evolved over time from hiring somebody because they seemed okay and we really needed the help. And waiting until we absolutely had to have somebody. So opportunistic hires were
Sure.
not, do more with less.
That's right.
Save
And
the money.
in a way, the bank is talking to you. Like the business is talking to you saying, look, we really have a need over here now. It is time. And I think.
And I don't know how many entrepreneurs I've counseled, like, let's say that you're hiring for a planned position.
Yeah.
Right. And you've got a team of people that are involved, and you can be the best at it in the world. But if that team of people, if somebody doesn't ask the question at the very, very end, when they've narrowed it down to their final candidates, if somebody doesn't get real and honest and say, are y'all fired up about any of these people? And then you go, well, no, not really. And then you go, okay, we're starting over. And you just see them sink because they're dying over here. They're dying underwater, and they need somebody badly.
Yeah.
But you got to be willing to do that. The hope is that you don't get that far with people you're not fired up with. But if you do get that far, somebody has to finally ask that question: are we sure that this was the person?
Well, what you're asking is a culture question.
That's right.
That's a culture. Whereas, like, would they fit? Is this someone that can be part of the team and be imaginative and engage and share and collaborate from a standpoint of what's best for the company with that kind of mindset? But but in the back of your mind, you're going, I really need someone in this seat soon. And but starting over is the right answer, and it is. But man, it's hard to do.
The work, a very technical hire too is also wrought with problems, right?
Yeah,
because you want to sacrifice fit because you've got this really narrow, tough technical job that you're hiring for,
right?
And there aren't that many people that do it, and it's really hard to find candidates, and you go through a lot to get to get anybody that has remotely what you're looking for. And the worst hire and the most expensive hire that I've ever made is that kind of a position. And I think everybody would today say we weren't that fired up about that person. We just thought that they would do. And it ended up being a very bad culture fit. It costs a lot of money to exit. And so, you got to hire for fit, and you got to be willing to walk away and start over. You can't just rush to fill a spot. And then opportunistic hiring, I mean, that's some of the best hires. Yeah. Right?
No, those are your all-star hires.
I mean, those are the people that are looking.
If there's people you've been tracking and gotten to know over the years, and you're in your space, and you're just in the back of your mind is like, if they're ever free, or if I get a hint that they're curious, I'm gonna be calling them tomorrow. That's an easy one.
Like you're saying, they'd never come to work for a small bank, but people get to that point where they're like, no, actually, I would prefer to be a part of a healthy company and a smaller team where I can maneuver a lot easier and not have the drag on my day from bureaucracy and some of the larger company stuff. So those opportunistic hires are very, very key. Yeah. I kind of had the mantra in my first startup bank, which I'd say I had my training wheels on as a founder and CEO. It's the first time of both. But I wanted to do more with less, which really translated I wanted to make more money for the shareholders as early as possible, and I wanted to do it on the backs of the people. Because I don't know how many entrepreneurs that I've talked to that have that same mindset. Let's bootstrap this. Let's not make let's not make these critical hires. Let's not invest in people. Let's just wait.
Right.
Yeah, let's wait till we're making lots of money, and then you're way behind the 8 ball. I woke up one day 5 years into my last bank, and I realized that everybody was waiting around for me to make decisions. And I found that out because I would ask, well, where are we at on this? And then they go, well, we're waiting to get on your calendar so that we can show it to you, and then you can approve it. So I kind of had to reinvent myself, my mind, my culture, and I brought an external consultant in to help me, but it worked really, really well. And so when I started Keystone, that was one of the foundations of my business was we're going to hire the best people we can find earlier, even before we need them. You can scale faster that way. You actually can make more money that way, but it's pretty hard to convince most entrepreneurs that they can make money by spending expensive money on salaries. But it also adds longevity to your current employee base. You don't wear them out as fast. And startups take a lot on people.
They do.
Whether it's a bank or whether it's Six Lock or your business. It's taxing.
It is. It is.
So if you bring some really smart people that you've hired for fit and they work a very high percentage of the time when you do that, your team appreciates that you hired somebody that fits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They embrace them quicker,
For sure.
and they start collaborating and working together faster.
Yep.
And then you're just off to the races, as they say. So yeah, hiring is just, isn't that like the bane of your business? And
It's the hardest thing to do to put put a great team together, because when you want to run to work because it's about solving a problem together with a great team that brings all these different perspectives together, whether it's on the customer success side or technology side or product side. But what I found was really interesting to me was hiring for opportunistic, someone that you really had your eyes on, wanted to be a part of your team one day, is like, first of all, note to self, like they're all taken. They have great positions right now for the most part, right?
Yeah.
Unless they do a short-term retirement, which I actually found someone recently, short-term retirement, and pulled them back in. Which is
those
awesome.
are great hires too.
They're great hires because they get a little stir crazy, and I've been off a year, and it's like, okay, what's next? And I have another in me possibly, so let's go.
And they've already done all of it.
And
They've already seen all of these
they've seen
things
it
before.
And they don't need a big company and a big office in the corner. They don't need. It's interesting.
And they don't stress over decisions because they've seen it.
But the thing with opportunistic hiring is that there's not a lot of discussion around like their package and how to pay and all of the comp around this, because it's like, just do it. Just do it. If you've been tracking someone, you get to know them.
Yeah.
My thing is like, make that happen, get them on the team. That's been my kind of experience on that. Almost all of those have all worked out, except for one, for opportunistic.
Well, I just know that in the case of my first bank, Pioneer Bank, versus my second bank, Keystone Bank, I know we were more profitable faster with Keystone Bank.
Okay.
With the higher, more early strategy than the other strategy that I had. And it's ironic, but it happened.
It's impressive that you retooled yourself on that and kind of said, okay, I'm taking a whole nother approach on it. Hey, look, bootstrapping is a thing because most companies go out of business early on. So
I don't I mean, it's a tough decision.
Yeah.
It is a very tough decision. But a lot of small businesses and startups, they stay small. Ultimately, they stay small not because they can't scale. It's because they don't have enough people.
Yeah. Right on.
They don't. You can't scale without people. People are what makes it happen.
I love it.
So,
Good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so let's switch gears a little bit. Got a couple of other topics we want to make sure we cover. This next one is really interesting for Six Lock and for me to get to talk to somebody who's actually on the inside of a bank and has seen it all.
Okay.
You've seen the fraud problem from a different angle from anyone we've talked to so far on this show. And you described it in a way during our prep call that was really kind of clarifying to us. You said that you were recently at a Federal Reserve banker roundtable at a meeting of CEOs, Fed economists, and the person in charge of regulatory supervision at a bank. So the topic of wire fraud came up. How'd that go?
Well, it went well. They wanted to hear it.
Yeah.
So that's good. And I think that there was something in the American Banker today or yesterday, and I think the bank regulatory and supervision, the agencies, they recognize, and they're coming out and saying, we understand that this is a problem, but nobody understands whose responsibility it is. And I think that that's where we're at. It's like, whose responsibility is it? Is it the bank supervision and regulatory agencies' responsibility? Is it the banking industry's responsibility? Is it our customers' responsibility? And I think that that's what's challenging right now, and that's the hard part. But the fraud is, I think it's up 33%.
Wow. Yeah.
Year over year. It's scaling out of control. And, you include in that, wire and ACH, but there's also check fraud and and I think that I certainly don't have an answer for it. And I know I've seen it. I've seen how people lose money by moving money.
Yeah.
I've seen it. And you have too.
That's right.
I see it all the time. And, as a bank at Keystone Bank, if I'm moving money for my customer, there's no real way for me to validate where that money's going.
Yeah.
Let's say it's going to Chase. Well, Chase, we're not tied together. Like, they're not going to communicate with me.
Yeah.
In fact, they're incented to not communicate with me because then they have the ability to say, well, that's not my fraud. That's not my problem. That's your problem, or that's your customer's problem, which is a perpetual problem in our industry. Is the larger banks, the way that they've architected their organizations is they've architected it in such a way that they try to push any fraud responsibility off to the downstream banks.
Sure.
And to
And that's part of their user experience. As you go there as a client, and you say, well, I need to send a $100,000 wire to a customer in Seattle. They're like, okay, that is wonderful. Can you write down here all the sensitive data on this piece of paper or online and share that with us where it needs to go? Then you take a step back and go, wait a second, but it's just sensitive data. It's theirs. It doesn't even belong to me. And I have to give this to you to send it? It's like, yes, exactly. And it's like, okay, cool, I'll do that. But can you validate this for me? Making sure, like with the other bank, and they're like, no, we don't. That culpability is on you, sir.
That's right.
And this is a conversation that I have had before, and it's like, whoa, this doesn't feel good at all. So what you're saying is you're offering me a service which I'm going to pay for, $25 wire or whatever it may be, and if something goes wrong and this money ends up in, God forbid, North Korea or something like that, that's on me. I've lost the money.
It's either on you or your bank.
Yeah.
And it depends on how your account agreement with your bank reads. But they're going to delay being drug into any remedy for that lost money for months and months and months, and it ultimately ends up going back on either my customer or my bank if I'm in the wrong, and then I've got to go file a claim with my insurance company because we all have insurance for wire fraud, but then they deny it because they say, well, you didn't follow your own procedures, which is typical. So they're also in the deny space.
Right.
So you end up not reporting it, and you end up just writing it off if it's your responsibility.
Well, I was going to say there's a watermark there of a certain amount that's lost or stolen.
So these numbers that we're hearing about this escalated fraud, there's a lot that's not reported anywhere.
Yeah, totally. And in fact, there's a stat from 2024, I believe, within the financial services sector is only 12% reported.
So I had
reputational risk. That's why
it's a really small amount.
Yeah, 12%. FBI. That's an FBI number. Yeah.
So I had recently a customer we've been working on to do more business with, but they move a lot of money. They're really large. We like them. They like us. It's a long period of time. They decide to close a transaction with us, real estate transaction. And they do a lot of JVs, and they have partners and equity. And so, that real estate settlement dollars doesn't last for very long. It's going to get dispersed and spit out to whoever's owed what part for whatever their piece of the equity stack is.
Right.
And if they've got a loan, it's got to go over here and whatever. So $64 million wire had to go back out after, a Keystone Bank. Well, that's 4 times what my insurance limit is. And we did belt and suspenders, the customer understood, I can validate everything, but what I couldn't validate was this account that the 64 million was going to. Has it been compromised? Do we know who owns it? Who's on the account signature record? Is our customer being given the correct information?
Yeah.
Right? They think they've got the correct information.
Sure.
Are they being given the correct information or not? So why don't I just go validate it with Chase Bank?
Yeah.
Well, they won't talk to me. There's no connection so you end up just going, well, I've done everything I can, and I hope that the customer understands that this is their responsibility per the account agreement.
Yeah.
How do those conversations go? Because
They're good. That one went good because it's $64 million.
Yeah.
That one went good.
That was a happy ending.
Because they're professional. They're
Yeah.
professional, and it's $64 million. But a small business customer gets irritated to send the money.
That's right.
And I try to caution them, like, you need to do more, and you need to not use emails.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's right.
And you need to do more. And I've seen so many of these emails where the CEO sends an email to the CFO to wire money. That's a common one I see.
Yeah.
Now, those are all on our customers.
Business
right?
email compromise.
But it's email compromise.
Yeah.
I've seen so much of that from some very smart people.
Yeah, right. Man in the middle attacks.
And it's a big, big problem in our industry. And I think what you've created is creating a mechanism. There are others that are starting to pick up on this trend that you've jumped into however many years ago when you started Six Lock, but there are others that are starting to see this gap in the banking system, this callback feature.
Yeah.
Like,
No, totally.
you're validating a lot of stuff, but there's lots of room for there to be the man in the middle or corporate account takeover or seeing that the transaction's happening.
I was just speaking with a private equity firm here a while back that's a new client of ours, and they were like, Todd, getting the money out the door on the distribution, it impacts our IRR. Like, these are returns that are measured and we're scored by our peers and other third parties.
Because they're big dollars.
Because these are big dollars that are moving. But it takes us 30 days, Todd, to get the money out the door that I've been sitting on in an account because we're having to validate manually our whole team. I'm pulling partners off the golf course and chairlifts to say, let's get in a room and huddle around these digits, which we have no idea if they're right or wrong, but to double, triple check all of them for the LPs on top of the phone calls to all the LPs. Right. Not that you're not going to reach them first time every time.
Right.
So 30 days of this to get to a point where like we're satisfied. We think the numbers are right. Let's get the money out the door. Oh, and by the way, we have another distribution next week. So we're going to do this all again. And we hear these stories over and over again about like this gap, and that's exactly what you called out, this gap in the space of saying, who's on the other side? Can we get that validated? And that's the Six Lock platform is not a commercial, but people can validate the other side with their own personal data. They can connect themselves, KYB, KYC.
I just wished I had the ability to have an already connected connection to the receiver of these funds so that when I'm ready to send that wire or that process that ACH transaction, that person actually gets an acknowledgement, or that there's this database built up where it's going into a blockchain database and it's checking what's already been set up.
Right.
So that we know that somebody did in the very last minute, the right time, slip in.
So let's just say your commercial clients were actually badged. Let's say they came onto a network and they were badged by saying,
fingerprint.
Hi, I'm Todd Sorrell. I have a construction company. I am Third Coast, one of your clients. I have gone through KYC, KYB. I connected my bank. I haven't changed anything over the years, but I'm badged. When it comes time to me to receive funds from somewhere, you know it's right.
Acknowledge it.
That's right.
But we're not. Right. We don't have, the bank industry doesn't have the ability to do that very well at the community bank space. We don't have the ability to say to the receiver of the funds, this is coming to you and here is the account information that it's going to.
Yeah.
Can you please verify that one last time as the receiver of the funds?
You know, that's a huge challenge too, because a community bank, as you described it earlier, is all about relationships, right? It's all about trust and knowing who I'm doing business with versus this big monolith.
So we facilitate the payments, and then what happens is over the time these account agreements have been developed to where it's the customer's responsibility.
Yeah.
Right.
And most people probably don't understand that until they lose money and they realize, well, it's your loss. It's not the bank's loss.
Right.
And unless the bank did something wrong or
that's a tough conversation.
That's a real tough conversation, especially if it's a good client.
Oh, it's so interesting. We've had so many of these conversations. We keep coming back to the concept of identity and tying identity to the account, right? To the process. And
well, it's getting even faster too. That's the other side of this is it's getting fast. So, FedNow, RTP, send, it's gone. Moving to stablecoin.
Instantaneous.
Done.
It really is.
How you getting like a wire at least? Like
there's a little bit of manual on the other side.
There's a little bit of hold. There's a little bit of hold there. So like one of our big frauds our customer got hit with was $500,000. And by the time they realized, because they got a call from the customer that said that wire you're supposed to send me didn't show up, and they realized that somebody slipped in the wrong information, money went to an account at Truist Bank, and so we called the next day when the customer called us, and they were able to put a hole in the account, but $50,000 had already gotten out.
Wow.
But when they were talking about these fast payment rails,
that's right.
Sophistication, it can be moved in and out.
Yeah.
So it's a problem, and we don't know how to fix check. You just talk about check fraud. I mean, you're not processing check, thanks goodness, but I still have to.
No paper.
I still have to. That's a whole nother story.
It is.
But let's just say that the big banks have figured out that the best way to avoid liability when you're dealing with a paper item to determine whose responsibility is, depending on whether it's what kind of fraud it is, washed versus this versus that. The best way to fix that for them, convert it immediately to an electronic item and get rid of the physical item. It's really impossible to determine the difference between the kinds of frauds on the item, whether it's a copied fraud item versus a washed item. There's all these rules of whose responsibility. So the big banks have they realize that, and so they're like, well, here's a picture of the item. Well, you give it to your attorney, and you can't really tell.
Yeah.
So, and they did that.
Sophistications.
They did it on purpose. So,
Right.
I mean, I'm not like, that's real. Like, they did that for a reason.
You know, to kind of connect the connective tissue here is that it's increasingly on the money mover or the money recipient to prove their identity, making sure everything's locked and
It
loaded.
really, at
right?
the end of the day, it is. So why wouldn't you scream for more protection?
Yeah. Right.
Everybody thinks you're getting protection by doing a wire through a bank and doing callback procedures, because that's what our industry has done forever.
That's right.
It's how the insurance industry is set up, the bank regulatory agencies, internal audit. When they're reviewing your wire processes, they're looking at all of this stuff to me. Are you doing valid callback procedures?
Well, there's insurance premium discounts given
if you follow your
procedures, and one of those is the callback,
and
which we know today is like off the shelf. I can go and buy a subscription, and I can clone your voice with 3.5 seconds.
Right.
And I can type it, and it can say whatever. So what do we trust now?
Circling back, that 33% rise in fraud does not include the impact of what you just said. Does not include the impact of AI and voice takeover. So
it has totally supercharged it. Like you think of facial impersonations from like a FaceTime call or video, and put the voice in there too. Now you have a deep fake, right? Now it's all three dimensions have kind of come together.
I know a bank that signed up to do some business with an AI company that's new, that's doing stuff for banks. And they happen to have a pretty marquee shareholder of the bank that everybody would recognize. And so they decided that they wanted to use their AI agents, but they wanted all the phone calls to be added with this individual's voice that everybody would know. And within a day, they had a working model.
Oh my gosh.
Where if you called the bank and got to their customer service line, it was answered with this individual's voice, walking you through the customer service process within a day. And all they did was take a 15-second clip of this individual off the internet.
Yeah.
So I thought 2 years ago, it was really cool when I would call Schwab and they said, hey, your voice is your password.
Yeah.
It's like, that's kind of cool. Like, that's an easy way. Think about how far we've come in that was just about 2 years ago.
Right.
When these people started rolling out voice. Like, my voice is my password.
Like voice fingerprint.
And they're all like, there's no way I would do that today.
That's
there is no way.
2 years later.
No way I would use my voice to validate my account at this point.
Right, same.
It's really changed a lot. I assume that's changing your business too a little bit, and you're having to pivot and react to that and make sure that you're.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, I think for us the common thread through our client base is the bank callbacks. Like that is the method that is the kind of the last stamp or sign off on. Yeah. Okay, we're going to send these funds out the door. They call them back. You know, when we speak to CFOs, they think in terms of, can you save me some time and money?
Yeah.
The callbacks for them are crushing. Like they're having their whole finance team has to
they're very expensive.
Yeah, very expensive. Like you think about calculate how much they're spending and FTE, making calls all day long to make this happen, but they don't trust them anyway. And it ruins the client experience. If you have a PE firm that's very like white glove and they want to take care of their LPs and they're working with some institutions and high net worth, like they don't want to call them while they're on their boat or wherever they are doing whatever they're doing. It ruins it. Yeah. So I'm shocked. There's a lot of angles here on this that it just
is, and
sense.
Technology is converging very quick on this. There's a lot of people trying to solve for this that you've already solved for. There's other people that I've met there's several of these people that are trying to solve it. But I'm astonished a little bit that the top 3-4 providers of software to the banking and credit union industry haven't solved this for their banks yet. I'm shocked that the larger banks haven't pushed that down. Yeah. But But really, I ought to be able to have a very easy way for Joe at ABC Company, who's sending and receiving money with me, to have some sort of thumbprint where that information is validated in one path before the transaction hits. And then once that information is there, any connection between Joe and ABC and this company, it's going to check some blockchain database. And if the information that you've now received for this particular wire transaction doesn't match what's already loaded in there, then it rejects it.
That's right.
And I just wish they'd get to doing that with where's your phone at? You know, like you're trying to do something from your phone, and your normal home base is in Nashville, and this is coming from, Florida. Whoa, time out. IP addresses, like.
Right.
It'd just be nice if we could figure out this multi-layer approach, because I don't think there's one easy fix, unfortunately.
Agreed.
But the core message here is, as you both described, is that the onus is on you as a business owner, as a PE firm or
That's
whatever.
right.
Like the bank is, of course, banks are interested in fighting fraud, but they're interested mostly in self-preservation there. They want that fraud to not be their issue, as you've heard, right? They're okay with it being another bank's issue, right? They don't want it to be yours.
I would
So
say
setting something up ahead of time.
I would say the community banks are more interested in trying to figure out how to recover money, whether it's the bank's loss or not, for our customers. We're more inclined to do that, and it takes us. I can give you a case after case of how many months it takes us, whether it's Citibank or whether it's JP Morgan. It can take up to 6 months or more to finally get collected on this stuff. If you have to, and we have to really stay after it. And you have to have some really dedicated, special people.
Yeah.
But our customers love that. That's not our loss.
Yeah.
But we'll be damned if we're going to make them suffer over something that really, truly is somebody else's fault.
Right.
But that's how the system is geared right now.
It's
It's geared to push it out of the larger
like you said,
banks,
architected that way.
down to my bank, down to my customer.
Right.
My insurance company, your insurance company. You go pay for an attorney and sue me.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to say, sorry, it's not my responsibility, until I ultimately exhaust all my times of saying it's not my responsibility. And then I finally have to wake up and go, oh, you're right.
Yeah.
And most people
All
give
that
up.
wasted time. Oh my gosh.
Most people give up.
Yeah.
Most people opt not to file on their insurance coverage, write it off and move on.
Yeah. That's sad.
It's so sad.
Man.
But there's a whole... There's the criminal investigation side of this, the law enforcement side of it. I mean, my goodness, they can't keep up. Like,
Yeah.
But I've heard people that have had some success calling there are certain divisions of the FBI and local police departments that have been set up over the years to where if you know that it exists, you can call them and they can get ahead of it.
Yep. That's
and
right.
Try to stop this money from leaving the fraudulent account.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a real problem. You've stumbled onto, obviously, with 6Lock, a really huge need.
Yeah. Well, it takes partnerships to work with banks.
Yeah.
To recognize what we're doing.
Yeah.
And to recognize that identity around banks and payments is the core of keeping everyone safe.
Right.
Especially if it's like repeat. I mean, and being in the private markets, there's a little bit of there's people who are doing business with people that they understand, they know, right? And there's a lot of institutions and there's pensions and foundations and such too. So a lot of it's built into where there's really strong relationships to begin with, which is really everything. But it all comes down to, like, we're humans and we don't have these numbers all memorized. And machines can do it better than us.
Yeah.
But the bad guys have the machines in their hands now. And so it really does come down to, like, fighting fire with fire and coming up, with our own generative AI products to really go fight that and keep everyone out of the fray. If we can keep our clients out of touching sensitive data, keep them out of the spreadsheets and emails, bank uploads, FTP files, yada, 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 keep them in a platform where there's continuous monitoring, they're safe. And that's where we're at right now. We believe that is the best solution for now. And things change over time and evolve. Of course it will, and we'll have to evolve over time too. But that is kind of where we are, is building out your own safe financial, invitation only type of network.
Well, email is the easiest way for this information to change hands.
Yeah.
Right.
It's so easy.
Right.
We've been doing it for a long time. It'd be really, really difficult for me as a business owner and my small team to give up on the ease of
Yeah.
you're on the phone with so-and-so
Yeah.
and you're not
It is.
really, but you thought you were.
Sure.
Or
Well, it used to
or
be
they-
you get these emails. Do I trust the email? And you can look at the domain and see, oh, there's an extra in here or an extra letter of some kind. And okay, all right, my spidey sense is right. I nailed that one.
Yeah.
But now it's kind of like, they're better than that now. Now they're going to have the domains. Now they're living in the email. And they're just watching for an opportunistic type of a capital event to come in and be like, hey, let's reroute this.
And there's the whole account takeover thing. They're just waiting and they're sitting back and they can. The owner of that account doesn't even know they have access to it.
Yeah.
And they're just waiting for the micro deposit to show up.
Yeah.
And then they see the money come in.
Yeah.
And,
And it's all bounced as soon as it's gone. I mean,
And then they transfer the money out.
Right.
And you don't even know what happened.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're 2 banks down the road by the time you just realize it. A lot
Oh
of
my
times.
God! And if
Or
international is involved, forget about it.
Yeah.
Because time delays and time change, especially if it goes to a country where they're asleep when we're awake. I've had that happen before.
My goodness.
You're losing that money.
Yeah.
By the time you get a hold of them, and then they return your call or your Fed message or whatever.
Oh my gosh.
It's hours, days, and the money is long gone.
Yeah, I'll bet.
And no way to retrieve it back. So international's super scary.
Yeah.
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 Well, this has been a vibrant conversation. One last question for you, because this is fascinating, getting the opportunity to spend some time with you. If you had some guidance to offer somebody who's thinking about starting a bank today, a community bank today,
Yeah.
and maybe that will be in your future. You've already had 2 under your belt. Maybe you've got a new idea. What kind of advice and guidance would you give them if you were starting new today?
Starting new today, I'd probably buy a bank, a small bank. It's just nice to start with an infrastructure.
Yeah. Yep.
I'd pick an incredibly good technology partner and make sure your technology stack is scalable and that it does everything that you need today and in the future. I did single source at Keystone instead of best of breed.
Okay.
Because I felt like Jack Henry's single source, that their stack had all the must-haves in it.
Okay.
I liked it.
Yep.
So I think I would opt for a single stack. There's some vendors that I wouldn't enjoy using, and then there are some vendors that are good at this piece. But then you run into integration challenges. So I like the single source idea. There's some good partners out there.
Yeah.
You're getting the newest technology. I may use somebody. If I did it again, I might look at somebody to do the whole digital suite different maybe than the core.
Yeah.
Right? I'd want
Right.
to make sure that core was scalable for sophisticated lending products and SBA lending and some of the things you were like, damn, I wished I would have thought of that. And I wouldn't sign a long-term contract. I'd try to make that contract as short as I could, and I would want to make sure that I negotiated some pretty significant caps for fee escalations. A lot of people forget to do that, and so your bill is really low in the beginning, and then but boy, you get over 1,000 accounts, and then it doubles. So I've seen all those games. So just those are some of the easy things. But you got to have the good technologies on the treasury for the business customer.
Yeah.
And good digital for the consumer, remote deposit, moving money from your phone, that kind of sophistication. It's just a must today.
Yeah.
I'd pick a good community.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to ask.
You got to find a good
growth.
community,
Yeah,
a good growth-oriented community that's got a growthy future. That's you've seen it support community banks in the past, maybe that have been built and sold.
Right.
And pick your board well and early. And kind of the nose in, hands out kind of approach. That's I think that's probably my best views. Like, get some people that have some banking experience, but make sure everybody else understands they're just as important to the person to the success of the business. The expert isn't just because they've got bank experience doesn't mean they're the expert.
Yeah.
Right. Like we're all in this together.
Right.
And do a round, make sure it's a round good group of people that get along together.
Be diverse, right?
It's a lot of work. Make sure that they understand it's a lot of work. Their job is to support. Their job is to help. Nose in, hands out kind of philosophy, right? No micromanaging.
I like that.
Support the management team, compensate them well for their efforts,
Yeah.
And pick people that are willing to do that, and make sure that you're able to take care of your team equity-wise, come up with a smart equity plan. That's important.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a list of 10 things here that I brought with me that I just wrote down one day that just like, and you got to get good people early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some continuity is great too. If you can bring some people along with you that you've
Right.
had an experience.
Did you do that
it.
with Pioneer when you went Pioneer to Keystone?
I brought over
Did you bring
a number
over
of people.
Yeah. Right on.
Yeah, it was really important.
Oh,
My president I hired in 2010. My chief credit officer hired in 2012.
okay.
So
You can finish each other's sentences. You're
been together a long time.
Right on.
Yeah, CFO I hired. I mean, I actually had hired him 20 years earlier in another bank when I moved to Texas in 2005. I hired him to be my kind of controller, and then we sold the company, and we stayed in touch all these years. And he grew up in his career, and when we were looking for a CFO, we kind of regrouped.
That's cool.
So hire good people. Again, I talked about technology, but you got to prioritize it.
Yeah.
You got to prioritize. You can't just delay because you'll get behind. So you got to prioritize technology. It's important. It's not unimportant.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's expensive to hire good technology people, but if you're starting a bank, like, do you know how hard it is for a small bank to get Plaid and Finicity and all of these data aggregators to actually take the time to actually get you into those systems?
Right.
They don't care who we are.
Yeah.
They don't care. So you have to have somebody that's capable. I know that sounds trivial, but it took our guy, and he came from Texas Capital Bank. Like, he helped build all of their digital technologies. And just to get Keystone as a small new bank, to get the attention of Plaid and Finicity and all of these other data aggregators, because our customers are like, well, how come every time I add my bank account on this other company, how come Keystone's not listed? Well, you actually have to go through a process to get listed.
Yeah.
So that because you're passing along
That's
your
right.
customer's information, right?
Right.
It's got to get integrated. It's got to get done. Well, who's going to do that? Your commercial lender, and he's doing IT? No. So you got to have technology prioritization. It's important.
Yep.
Can't overspend. You can't be bleeding edge, but you can't not spend on technology.
Yep. I want to highlight that too, because I think just as a banker, just as a banking customer myself, like, I just love being mobile, and I really appreciate when there's just a really good experience logging into a bank app, and I can move money to my kids or transfer it to my whoever, and I can see a balance. I can take a picture of a check and deposit it.
Got to have all the must-haves.
And this is table stakes right now for sure, but I really do appreciate really nice UI when it's fun and makes it. It's just
It's important.
I don't have to walk in. I don't have to walk in anywhere.
It's super important today because you're building the bank for the bank you want to be, not what the bank you are today.
Yeah.
And you're going to build for your future customers' needs, not just exactly what they need today, because you're going to be adding customers and they're going to be growing. And everybody's mobile and digital now.
Yeah.
So it's a must-have. You got, like I already talked about, curating the best, the best board you can, because you want that group to help make you better and your team better by supporting you and being there for you in the tough times and not throwing the brick at you because you made a bad decision. Like, you got to it's important. You got to have the right kind of mix of people and the right attitude. So to me, that's important. And one of my personal, this is kind of who I am as a person. Corporate America kind of got to that ivory tower kind of thing where you're untouchable. You're a certain level, and you don't get to talk to me or interact with me, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm really the opposite, and I think it works, but I'm very open. I take everybody's phone call. I return every phone call. I take all text, emails.
Yep.
I take meetings. I don't, my door is wide open. I'm wide open. I'm accessible. And I think you really, if you're going to start a bank today, you need to be prepared for that. Your customers will thrive on it. They demand it now.
Yeah.
A lot of banks think, well, I can just sit in the top floor.
Yeah.
But that's really the wrong approach to take in banking, because the bank is really about the customer and has nothing to do about me.
Right.
If I build a really great bank, then they can be really successful banking with it.
Yeah.
That's what we're about. So being accessible and reliably accessible to everyone.
Right.
Take every meeting, return every phone call.
Yeah.
Sounds trite, sounds simple. Most bankers don't want to put their cell phone number up for fear that you might call me. Well, people call me 7 days a week.
Right. They want to it's someone listening. That's the thing. They just want to be heard. Like, like I can reach out. Jeff's going to respond.
So
There's
I think
confidence around that.
to me, that's important. Make time to think is another odd thing to say, but I learned later in life, too late, but make time to think.
Yeah.
Create time to think, no matter what it might be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what your make time to think world is, but mine's when I run
Yeah.
or when I play golf, right?
Yep.
Something different than being with your team every day.
Sure.
Make time to think. I joined a CEO forum, which was one of the best things that ever happened to me. But I didn't do that until, Keystone.
Yeah.
I get to take a whole day, once a month with these people that come beside you and they become your friends. And
Yeah, I did Vistage years ago.
I'm in Vistage.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in
Yeah,
Vistage.
it's Patrick. It's here in Austin. Patrick. I don't remember his name.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's important to make.
Yeah.
We talked about this earlier, but hire smart. I
Yeah.
can't stress that enough. Just you got to hire smart. You cannot hire for need.
Yeah.
Solve for tomorrow, not today. So when you run across a problem, make sure you really spend some time with your team thinking about the problem. Don't just solve it now. Solve it for all the other customers.
That's right.
Forever into the future.
Yeah.
So if you take that mindset when you run into a problem, it's much more fun and fulfilling to say,
Right.
we're not going to focus on this one little problem. We're going to focus on the future. And we're going to focus on this doesn't happen again for anybody else in the company or for our customers. I think that's really critical, important step to take.
Yeah.
And budget thoughtfully and stretch wisely. So, stretch yourself, push yourself. You can do it. So if I was starting to bank today, I would want to make sure that I have plenty capital resources. I started my first bank in 2007 with $9 million of capital.
2007. Right before the GFC.
I started this Keystone Bank in 2018, right before all of the stuff happened that we did not have in our business plan,
Of course.
with $31 million of capital.
Yeah.
There's a pretty unwritten rule that there's a minimum level of capital that you need to start a bank, and it's
I can imagine.
and it's pushing that $30 million number. I mean, I think it just depends on the person in their group and their approach. But I would buy a bank. I don't think I would charter one from scratch. If I did, I'd want to make sure I had a much bigger
Yeah.
runway to deploy that capital and build scale and profitability. Sometimes that's hard to do. So I would like to get started with something that, make a little money and
Yeah.
it's already got a technology system. And so those are some of my thoughts.
Great.
I mean, make sure you got enough capital.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's
I love
huge.
it. Fantastic.
That's cool.
And have good advisors, right? Make sure that
Seriously,
you have
surround
good
yourself.
advisors.
Yeah.
So not every attorney is capable of having the expertise and the credibility to help you start a bank.
No, for sure. No, I mean,
You have
it's
to have somebody that is savvy enough, that's done it, that
a lot
has
of a lot
experience,
of dynamics into that.
credibility with the regulators. They understand, they've seen them before. So accountants, same way. Make sure you got a really strong accounting firm that understands banking. Those are two really critical pieces, and whatever consultants that can help you with your
Yeah.
pro formas. So
That's awesome.
I don't know. Did I answer?
That was perfect. It was
That's
great.
great feedback. I
It
love
was
that.
way more than I expected in the best way. Like you have great insight.
It's doable. I think it's
Yeah.
harder. I think it's
Yeah.
harder to do. It gets harder to do, but it is
Yeah.
definitely doable.
Yeah.
Well, and I have to imagine there's somebody listening to or watching this podcast either right after we've recorded it or sometime in the future, because these things tend to be evergreen. You'll be surprised. We get a client not too long ago who watched one of the podcasts we produced that was 9 years ago.
Well, maybe that'll
Right?
happen today.
So
You've
with
got-
this type of thing here,
Maybe that'll happen. You've got somebody sitting in here that's listening to this podcast that absolutely loved his bank and his banker that he banked with, and the bank sold to one of these larger banks, and he's sitting there, or she is, they're like, man, I feel bad for Joe that's having to work there, and I hate this experience. And maybe they pick up the phone and call each other and go, let's start a bank.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Let's start a bank.
That's how things get going.
It's
sometimes.
doable.
Yeah.
The timing is now.
Yeah.
Like, don't wait. Like, we have a window of opportunity,
Yeah.
regulatorily wise, that we haven't had for a while.
yeah,
Everyone in Washington, D.C., at all the agencies, they're all largely aligned around community banks and banking and startup banks right now. There's a lot of activity and a lot of focus to try to create more banks.
Yeah.
Instead of the consolidation that's happening, let's also put some energy into creating some banks. And like I said, there was one in Texas that just announced their launch acquisition yesterday. So they won't be open for a while until they close that acquisition because it'll take a while to get approved.
Yeah.
But they announced their acquisition platform yesterday.
That's great.
And this is somebody that's already done a scale roll up by other banks, grow, sell. They've already done it before. And they're coming back in the market after selling theirs over 5 years ago.
Okay.
Their last one.
Competition
So,
makes us better.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Well, this has been a fantastic conversation. Before we let you go, people are absolutely going to want to follow up. So, Jeff Wilkinson used to be Keystone Bank. Now it's
It's J. Wilkinson at Third Coast Bank.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Third Coast Bank.
And then you also have a podcast of your own.
I do.
I'm sure people want to check that out. What's the name of the podcast?
Banking on Community.
Banking on Community podcast. So
That's
we'll
right.
make sure we get that linked up in the show notes.
Yeah.
And then we'll get your LinkedIn up there as well.
Nice.
This has been awesome. Thank you very much for
Thanks
coming
for
on the
having
show.
me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for joining,
I
Jeff. This
so
is
enjoyed
great.
getting to know you, Todd.
Yeah,
and,
same.
And I just think you're right in the middle of I think an awakening in the banking industry that we have these gaps. And
Yeah.
the regulatory agencies and the government agent, we recognize they're like, okay, we get it, we have a problem, but whose responsibility is it,
Sure. That's right.
and how do we approach it?
Yeah.
Well, I think it gets fixed with technology
Sure.
and doing more than we've done as an industry, which means there's a whole bunch of stuff that's got to get fixed.
Sure.
Insurance has got to get fixed, right?
Yep.
The verification.
It's an all hands on deck. There's a lot of things.
There's so many things that have to get
systems,
fixed.
processes, trust. Where do we trust now? We're gonna have to trust tech over a voice or other methods before, right? So there's a few things human wise we're gonna have to take a leap on, but it'll make us better, right?
Yeah,
For sure.
I think so.
It's exciting times.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thanks for having me. It's good to meet you.
Yeah, good to meet you as well.
Thanks
Thank
for
you,
having me in our
sir.
studio.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I love it.
Awesome.
Appreciate you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Appreciate you too. Thank you.
Thank you very much for listening to and or watching this episode of the 6x6 Lock podcast. It's always fantastic to have you with us. Huge props to Jeff Wilkinson for being so generous with his time and sharing his insights and wisdom. I learned a ton in this episode, and I hope you did as well. Now, as I mentioned at the top of the show, please do make sure you subscribe to the 6x6 Lock podcast on your favorite podcast platform. And if you have a moment, give it a like and add a comment. Make sure this show reaches a larger audience because people in the private markets really need to get this type of stuff in their feeds. I think you'll agree. Okay, that's all I have for you today. Make sure you're being nice to each other. We'll see you next time on the 6x6 Lock podcast. See ya. Bye.